It's truly an honor and privilege for me to introduce our next speaker. He grew up in Florida and graduated from the University of Florida with a journalism degree. Before taking public office, he was a real estate broker and deputy sheriff. He served in state government positions before coming to Washington in 2001, winning his seat in a special election. He represents the 1st Congressional District of Florida and is currently serving in his 7th term in Congress. He has been a member of both the House Armed Services and Veterans Affairs Committees since he was sworn in. In 2011, he was appointed chairman of the Veterans Affairs Committee, where he has demonstrated tremendous support for veterans and their issues. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the chairman of the House Veterans Affairs Committee, the Honorable Jeff Miller.
How are you, Commander? Good to see you. How are you? Good to see you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Chairman, good to see you again.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks for that kind introduction. I know we're running a little bit behind, so I've been editing as everybody's been speaking before me, but I think some of the things that I've got to say to you this morning are very relevant, and I just want you to know what the House Committee on Veterans Affairs is up to. Having a chance to visit with you is always a highlight on the Hill. I look forward to seeing you as you make the trek that way. We all on the House and Senate committees, of course, appreciate your service to our country and your continued service to the veterans of this great nation. Now, despite living in the middle of probably one of the most polarizing political climates that we have seen in our nation's history, I can tell you that my friend Bernie Sanders and I, just like I was able to work with Patty Murray, we will work together on legislation that is important to organizations such as yours because it is a common cause that we can rally about as members of the United States Congress. And that common cause, of course, is ensuring that veterans receive the care that you've earned, as well as the benefits that have been earned as well. Now, it's an endeavor, of course, that transcends party politics. It really transcends a party. It is a driving force of the efforts that we are trying to ensure on the House Committee. And I would say this, that even before the President in his State of the Union address just a couple of weeks ago rallied the country around helping those who have served this nation, I have pledged to work with the President and those in his administration to do just that. Secretary Shinseki knows where we are going in the House, and I want to reiterate that commitment to you here today. Your needs are too pressing, the challenges are too great to be inhibited by partisanship on the Hill. So in my role as chairman, I'm going to do everything I can do to make sure that that partisanship does not get in the way. It's this same approach that has enabled the American Legion to serve as really a valuable resource and a trusted ally and a critical support structure for our nation's veterans for nearly a century. Our government has long understood the need for organizations like this one to advocate for patriotism and honor, promote strong national security policies, and engender the continued devotion to those who have worn the uniform of this country. That's why Congress chartered the Legion in 1919, and since then you, the Legion, has carried a proud tradition of ensuring that the concerns of America's veterans are heard throughout Capitol Hill and all over Washington. One of our first, not ours, but yours, because I wasn't around, one of the first major accomplishments, you know, of the Legion was the creation of the U.S. Veterans Bureau. It's a precursor of today's Department of Veterans Affairs, and your legacy of service continues, blazing trails and opening doors for America's newest generations of heroes. In the 112th Congress, you and your membership were very supportive and instrumental in helping us pass the Vow to Hire Heroes Act. You know that it's a comprehensive bill designed to reduce veteran unemployment by retraining veterans to make them more competitive in today's market. Your advocacy also has helped us pass legislation and attract support across party lines to pass pieces of legislation such as the Honoring America's Veterans and Caring for Camp Lejeune Families Act, the Veteran Sexual Assault Prevention and Health Care Enhancement Act, and the Improving Transparency of Education for Veterans Act. Those are just a few of the pieces of legislation that we were able to pass with your support. Now, what I want to do real quickly is tell you about the two main areas of emphasis. This doesn't mean that we're not going to focus on other areas, but I think two things that are important to you, obviously, are helping the VA dig out of the backlog of disability claims that exist out there today, and probably even more important than that is making sure that veterans have greater access and timely mental health care today. Without a doubt, it's going to take a collective effort, not only by Congress, but the administration, service organizations such as yours, and the American people to make these issues happen and make them better. Because you know, and you've already heard, that almost 1 million veterans right now have disability compensation claims pending with VA. On average, it takes 270 days to process a claim, and 70% of the claims that are existing out there have been in existence or pending for more than 125 days. That's why we as a committee on both the House and the Senate intend on making it a top priority to ensure that VA resolves the problem. The Secretary wants to resolve it, we want to solve it, you want to solve it, but there are going to be some things that have to be done to make sure that this happens. First, we've got to work with VA to formulate a deliberate and methodical approach to solving the backlog. Making overly optimistic projections about when and how the department can eliminate the backlog doesn't help the department, and it certainly doesn't help you, the veterans of this country. So I say it's time for VA to formulate a realistic plan for eliminating the backlog and to tell us in Congress what they need to make it happen. But a plan's just the beginning. It's the people that implement the plan that's going to make the difference. Now, fortunately, the VA has some very dedicated employees that are working. More than 300,000 people go to work every day at the Department of Veterans Affairs. Most are hardworking. Some are not. As with any large organization, a small contingent of problematic employees can do a lot to hinder progress. For too long, this has been the case within the Department of Veterans Affairs. Problematic employees have simply been transferred from one regional office to another. This has contributed to a major benefits backlog at a number of the VA regional offices around the country. When employees know that the only penalty for consistently failing to meet standards is transfer to another office, they can't help but become complacent. It's time to end that culture. It's time to develop among VA's employees a culture of accountability throughout every corner of the organization. If a VA employee doesn't want to do their job, the answer isn't move them from one office to another. The answer is to remove them, period. Protecting career bureaucrats doesn't better serve our American heroes. Getting rid of bureaucrats who fail them will. Today's veterans are returning from the front lines with wounds that are more complex than ever. And so the issue that I have put forward on the committee is probably the most important issue for us to deal with, is helping with mental health. After nearly a decade of asymmetric war, where our men and women have been in combat deployments and near constant exposure to the enemy, today's veterans are facing this challenge all too often. They are going untreated. Their mental health issues are going improperly diagnosed. Now, I will say that even though we may never be able to ensure timely and effective mental health care treatment for all of society, I will say that it's our duty to afford that opportunity to our veterans who are in need. In the last 6 years, VA's mental health care staff and budget have grown by nearly 40%. Unfortunately, those significant increases have not resulted in significant performance outcomes. While the number of veterans seeking VA mental health treatment has most certainly grown over the last decade, one number has stayed constant during that time, and it's veteran suicide. For the past 12 years, an average of 18 to 22 veterans per day have taken their own lives. Anytime a veteran who fought our enemies abroad, who helped defend America from within our borders, dies by their own hand, it's completely unacceptable. Now, it's not enough. It's not enough that the veteran suicide problem isn't getting worse. It isn't getting any better. And that means there's much more work for us to do when it comes to improving mental health access and care. Most veterans wait an average of 50 days before receiving an evaluation. That figure amounts to thousands of veterans in need. Now, it takes courage for those veterans to stand up and ask for help. They deserve more than to be told to simply stand in line to see their needs met. To address these problems, VA has in fact hired thousands of additional mental health care personnel, and the House Committee on Veterans Affairs supports those efforts. But we owe it to you and our veterans and to the American taxpayer to ensure that any increase in the VA budget and staffing are accompanied by increases in the quality and efficiency of services. To put it another way, it's not about how many people we hire. It's about how many veterans we help. In order to truly maximize mental health care access for our veterans today, VA has got to embrace an approach to care delivery that treats veterans where and how the veteran wants it, not just how and where the VA wants to do it. That's why I've proposed giving veterans who are having trouble getting timely mental health care access to the TRICARE network of healthcare providers. The proposal could double overnight the number of providers for those in need, making mental health care more accessible to thousands of veterans. Now, some have said this would undermine VA health care, but nothing could be further from the truth. This isn't about supplanting the VA health care system, it's about supporting the VA health care system. Furthermore, expanding access to mental health care services for veterans in need is a good thing, whether those services come from VA or if they have to come from somewhere else. And 1 year from now, 34,000 of our service members currently serving in Afghanistan will be back home again. Just as these troops have had to adapt to achieve success on the battlefield, we need to adapt here at home to ensure that our veterans get the care and the benefits that they've earned. So getting a handle on the benefits backlog issue and improving access to VA's mental health services is not going to be easy. Overcoming these challenges is going to require hard work and dedication from every corner of VA, cooperation and oversight from those of us in the Congress, as well as input and advice from organizations such as the American Legion. And while solving these problems will result in countless late nights and probably even more ruffled feathers on the Hill, for the sake of our veterans, we have to get it right this time. It may not be the easy thing to do, but it's the right thing to do. The time to act is now, and I ask you, the American Legion, to join us. And I thank you for our service to our great country, and may God bless the United States of America. Commander.
Mr. Chairman, good to see you.
Thank you.